I'm going live.
Good evening, audience and participants. Welcome to the webinar, Data Science for Business Innovation. Data science is indeed the millennial buzzword, simply because outside the scope of academia, organizations have turned to digital transformation strategies that rely on comparatively new sciences such as data science and big data. Embedding big data in the corporate structure has become the new norm. We will delve into what it means specifically to utilize data science for business innovation today. On the speaker's seat, we're extremely lucky to have Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, who is an accomplished analytics and OpEx practitioner with 2 decades of managerial and leadership experience spread across Asia, Europe, the United States, the Middle East, East Africa, and Australia in the operations outsourcing services industry. He's the founder and managing director of Business Brio, a CII and NASSCOM member company focused on analytics, OpEx, and market research. Business Brio is recipient of NASSCOM Excellence in Analytics Award in 2015 and the finalist of Red Herring Top 100 Asia Companies 2017. Apart from leading Business Brio, he is the president of Data Science Foundation, a non-profit entity dedicated to the cause of data scientists. It is the single largest such platform in Asia Pacific, with executive council members from coveted corporates and institutions like IIM, ISI, Cognizant, Northern Trust, ANZ, Honeywell, and others. Mr. Mukherjee is a convener of Big Data Analytics Subcommittee under LITD 30 of Bureau of Indian Standards and India member of SC42 on artificial intelligence under International Standards Organization. He was facilitated by NASSCOM President R. Chandrasekhar at 2015 for his contribution in the domain of data science. He's a recipient of several awards, a Leadership Award 2010, President's Award 2011 at Fidelity, a recipient of Best Award at the International Project Management and Leadership Conference. The list is endless, obviously. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, for being with us today, for addressing our session. It will be definitely a pleasure to hear you. Today, we are also joined by Dr. R.T. Goswami, our Director of Techno International, Newtown. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Goswami, for being here today with us. We will soon start the session, but before that, let us take a tour of our university, Sister Nivedita University, the beautiful campus.
Sister Nivedita University, or SNU, is the best place to build the dream future of the young generation. There are various scholarships available for meritorious students to study at SNU in various subjects as per the CBC. With the help of best teachers, advanced technology, and sophisticated infrastructure. The Placement Hub has been set up at SNU to provide training and placement services to a large number of students of the entire Techno India group, which will directly benefit the students of SNU as well. Admission has started in the online process in different departments for a limited number of seats. For details, visit our website www.snuniv.ac.in or call 1800-2588-155 or 98302-39601 or 98302-39701.
We will soon get into the session, but before that, I would request our director, Ms. Ina Bose, to speak a few words. Ma'am.
Thank you, Indila. But before I start, let me apologize to Gautam for presenting his name. Indila, I've made a blunder. Sorry, it's Gautam Banerjee. He is our very own Gautam Banerjee.
Sorry,
Never mind. He's a well-known figure and in the field of entrepreneurship, in the field of technology, of course, in the field of data science and big data. In this part of the country, I think Gautam Banerjee needs no introduction. And Indila has already read out a big, I think a one-pager about him. Gautam, we are so fortunate to have you with us. It has been a long association with you. With me personally, with Sister Nivedita University, because Sister Nivedita University has signed an agreement of partnership with Data Science Foundation, of which you are the president. Dr. Goswami, our own Director of Techno International Newtown, would you please set the theme today's, please, Dr. Goswami.
Yes. So, good evening to everyone. Once again, on behalf of SNU and Techno India Group, welcome Mr. Banerjee, who is the president of Data Science Foundation. Now, Mr. Banerjee is expert in this field, and he will definitely talk about the data science and its scope beyond. But let me set the tune. Why data science should be promoted in every engineering major? So, data science is a trendy new field taught in most universities, at least scientific and engineering ones. Data science covers so many different things like data management, statistics, data visualization, machine learning, and many more. People state that only computer scientists are skilled enough to deal with this. Why? Because it often requires programming skill which are not yet taught to everyone at high school nor before as basic language. Thus, it raises fear among people because they don't know about programming. Now, let's be honest. Data science requires to be comfortable with some computer stuff, like manipulating data. Now, when you have a files in the database, we are talking about operating on them, programming or using high-level software. But data science can help you in so many kinds of work. Nowadays, data is everywhere because we need data. Then you shouldn't ignore that way of solving your own problems just because you lack computer programming skills. And that's not the point. Now, where the areas of implementation, engineering all across like computer science, IT or anything, EC, I'm not talking about. But there are three basic areas. Let me talk about School of Pharmacy, where the courses of pharmaceutical sciences are there. Types of molecular structure and properties are somehow infinite. For chemical scientists working in the field of pharmaceutics, it's a very challenging task to predict the biological response for a given molecule. In practice, it implies a lot of clinical experimentations before assessing the usefulness and safeness of a new molecule. So this data set provides series of different molecules, each characterized by huge number of molecular description. There's the data science. Now, I have already talked about the other engineering discipline, but one of the major is the mechanical engineering, where data science is. Now, suppose if you imagine in charge of reducing production cost within a very large car market factory, I bet the first idea rising in your mind was about the building part itself. But a lot of money is actually spent during mandatory car test as a final step. So car manufacturers have to ensure the safety and reliability of each newly made car. So there's the data science. And the last is the most vital and nowadays the booming market is the agriculture. Data science there because many universities are now doing the BSc honors in agriculture course, and different applications of data science in agriculture sector is digital soil and crop mapping, weather prediction, fertilizer recommendations, disease detections and pest management, adaptations to climate change, automated irrigation system, and many more. So let's welcome let all of us hear from Mr. Banerjee and welcome him on this speech. Mr. Banerjee, now please your turn.
Thank you, Dr. Goswami. Thanks Techno India for and SNU University for arranging this seminar. This is, I think, very good topic as well as very relevant in today's date. Thanks Inadi for inviting me. Thanks Vandrila for giving the introduction. So I will like to share my screen now. So let me know if you can actually see my screen, all of you.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so am I audible? Is it loud and clear?
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely clear.
Yes.
No, it's okay. So, okay, so welcome everyone to this session of business innovation with data science. So that's the topic of today. Without wasting much time, let us get into the. My computer is hung now. Just a second. Sorry. Yeah. So as Dr. Goswami was also saying that there are a lot of topics, and today we will go through all these topics, starting from naive Bayes to logistic regression, decision tree, k nearest neighbors, SVM, support vector machines, random forest, boosted trees. Um, so don't get nervous. So we are not going through go through any of these today. Okay, so today's topic is not to get into details of any of these algorithms. Fortunately for most of you, we are actually going to focus more onto 8 business innovations by global corporates across the world of what they have done through data science. And I think that's what the topic is. And I think it's very important because there are many seminars, which are basically calling out, different parts of data science, what all things comprise data science, what's the difference between data science, AI, artificial intelligence, analytics, big data. But today we are actually going to ignore these things, and we are going to, for a moment, assume that data science, artificial intelligence, big data, analytics, everything is falling under the same domain in a bigger subset of data science. And we're not getting into the individual things out here, but we are just going to focus on the impact of data science on pure business innovation, new models of business, and what's happening across the world. So, that's what is there. So the first case study is that of Netflix. So we all know about, most of us know about Netflix, especially during these days of COVID, that most of us have to spend time, work from home, not go outside much. So the case study of Netflix is this, and you can see on the screen that I'm talking only about the Indian subscription, which is an annual subscription. And we are saying that it's around 4,188, 4,200, which is the minimal subscription of Netflix for one screen. Okay, there are other options. We're not getting into it to complicate the matter. That's per annum that one has to pay to subscribe to Netflix. Now, it's actually versus $9.99 for Amazon Prime. And you can also see on the screen that there are 150 million subscribers of Netflix versus 40 million customers for Amazon Prime. In fact, this year there's an update. So though the year has not ended, but so it's around 75 million now. So 40 million was last year, 150 million subscribers is also for last year. But even if I assume that there is no increase of Netflix subscriber between last year and this year, but Amazon Prime has increased, it's 75 million. So can you understand saying that a service, a company which is charging more than 4 times has got almost more than 3 times, 2.5 times subscribers? How is it possible? And both of them are into the same service. And Amazon is as popular as Netflix, because everyone, who uses Netflix obviously knows the name of Amazon. So there must be something, right? And that's where I think data science comes in. And this is nothing trivial. Amazon, being present in almost, more than 18 countries overall, and competing with Netflix now, and Netflix having almost more than 2-3 times of subscribers, uh, in spite of charging 4 times more, is a mystery, correct? And I think we are trying to understand that. And we are coming to the topic of data science. The biggest thing of Netflix is that it's an addiction, and it's an addiction to the extent that anyone by mistake, if he or she takes a subscription for Netflix, it's very difficult to come out of it. It has been seen that the attrition of Netflix subscribers is less than 7% across the world, which is phenomenal, right? And the reason behind it is basically the matching. So it's basically a recommendation engine that basically works at Netflix, which is tagged to be the #1 in the world. So based on the genre of the film, the series that you are watching, whether that's based on the characters being played, whether that's based on the director, who is directing the film or the web series, or the topic, or maybe some of these themes, the recommendation engine works very fabulously. And that is a pure play algorithm that is basically driven purely by data science. It's an AI algorithm. There are different kinds of algorithm. As I said, we will not get into algorithm today. And Amazon, with all its might, power, and subscribers, is still fighting with Netflix. Though it's in second rank, but it's way ahead. Netflix is way ahead than Amazon, and that is because of data science, and it is based on the recommendation engine, which is a pure play, AI algorithm, which is no one is being able to beat that. And remember, Netflix started in 1997 with the video cassette rental services. I still remember in 2001 month of December, when I went to US, I myself picked up a video cassette, from Netflix in the city of Albany in the New York State. So that's where the journey started for Netflix, and now it's into a paradigm shift of the OTT platform and #1 in the world. So that's case #1. Let's move on, to our next thing, which is basically, very hot news in India. This is from your story. You can see that screen out there. I have marked a couple of important portions of the screen, and this is as latest as yesterday. In fact, I got this on my phone, from your story, a push message, 30th of July, 2020. And in this, situation of coronavirus, COVID-19, and everything else, when the entire industry is struggling, different domains and verticals are trying to figure out how to boost up their revenues, sales, and everything else. Reliance Jio has made up, first of all, a profit of 2,520 crores. I mean, that's not some number which can be ignored, right? A 2,500 crore profit in this situation is something which the entire world is looking at, okay? And it adds 15 million new users in the month of June, by the way, okay? So the June quarter, that means, after the pandemic has started, in the June quarter, it has added 15 million new users. And the most important thing, as you can see over there, is basically that, we all know that over $20 billion has been invested in the last 60 days by different companies, including that of Facebook and others, and Google recently, as recent as the last week, which is being announced. And again, the story is of data science in a sense. The entire platform of Geo, as we all know, it's called as a data platform. So it doesn't work on the the voice, protocol. So it's basically the, the data, the LTE platform. And, the advantage of, Reliance Jio is that for every user, the kind of information that it gets, it can basically, go back and say that maybe, a couple of years down the line, uh, it can go back to the first release of Geo, saying that the entire service is going to be free for everyone. And how is that possible? It's possible because Reliance Jio knows exactly in the last 24 hours how many millions of people have actually searched for a new SUV model. And if Mahindra Group or maybe Tata Group or anyone else is coming up with a new SUV, instead of spending lakhs and lakhs of money onto a full page advertisement on a newsprint media, it can actually basically do rifle shooting instead of carpet bombing by pushing messages, advertisements specifically to those people who have searched an SUV model in the last 24 hours. That's the power. And even if they charge 1 paisa per push message, which is very targeted, the conversion ratio is going to be more, and they can actually mint millions of rupees, if not in dollars, right? And that's the reason why you see that in spite of everything else, there are basically millionaires and companies who are actually willing to invest in Reliance Jio, and it adds millions of new users. What about new users? Uh, you know you will hardly find anyone. Many of us must be having geo connection by now, and you will hardly find any one of us calling up the Reliance Jio call center, because the entire data structure, the data dashboards, the data science behind it, the performance monitoring, the bandwidth, the distribution, everything is actually done through data science, so that there's hardly any need to even call up the call center. And that's the story of data science. And that's why I think Mukesh Ambani did call out that data is the new oil. And every day we hear new news saying that it has taken over Big Bazaar, and GeoMart is going to now combine with Big Bazaar and everything. But it's basically data science at behind. The third story, okay. Now this is basically the story of Caterpillar. Many of us may be knowing this brand, many of us may not be. That's why the picture, as you can see on the screen. So basically Caterpillar is a world-renowned company having $14.4 billion in revenue last year. And it is basically into the earth, moving vehicles, heavy earth moving vehicles in the mines, in the industries, in the conventional industries, and that is what Caterpillar was always known as, right? It's one of the biggies out there in the Fortune 500 companies. Now the point is that many of us who knows Caterpillar by name and the brand, will be surprised to know that Caterpillar in the last 6 years of time has converted 60% of its revenue from service models. So what has happened is that in the last 10 years, 12 years of time, Caterpillar has installed a lot of sensors onto their machines and these vehicles, and from these sensors it has got a lot of data out of these mines, so much data that they typically understand exactly how much time the vehicles are moving, in which direction, how much load they are picking up, where they are dumping it, how much are they idle, how the operators are operating out there, what's their maintenance, what frequencies are their maintenance, what kind of parameters basically showcase before the symptoms of the maintenance picks up. And hence what has happened is that for the last 6 years of time, they have not only started new service, but they are now providing consulting services to big mines in USA, in Russia, in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Cambodia, and other places, where they are saying that how to manage a mine. So instead of selling these vehicles, they are giving consulting on how to manage mines. And you'll be surprised to hear that there are at least 10 very big, mines in the world that they have taken over for human-free, worker-free mines. So it's fully automated. And they could actually do it because of the data that they have collected, the analysis that they have done through the methods of data science, and many complications obviously in the backend. But again, we are not getting into the complications, the methods and the algorithms and the framework of that, but that's what has happened to Caterpillar. So Caterpillar has come up with new business models with help of data science. So now let's change the pitch and get into something which is for automobile industry. Okay, and let us see. I'm playing this video. Do let me know if you can hear the sound. Is it audible?
My team is about 25 people within the wider design team of about 40. What we're really trying to do there is predict the performance of the boat.
To everyone?
I like working on.
Can everyone hear the audio?
Yes, Mr. Banerjee, it's audible. The video is audible, yes.
Engineering that achieves something. Some of the innovation we did in Formula One, I worked on power shift gearboxes, I was part of Lewis's championship bid. Land Rover, long-established company, big innovators in the car world. Obviously got some really talented people across aerodynamics, across data analysis that we can add to our team and just improve our ability to try ideas and to innovate and to try and find performance. Maurizio is an interesting character in that respect because he's bringing a totally different perspective to things. He wants to stand back, just look at the data as numbers, try and spot trends, try and find out things that we wouldn't spot almost because we're too close to it.
I'm embedded with the Land Rover BR team as a performance engineer. Essentially what we're trying to do is get a better insight of how or why the boat is performing in the way that it is performing and try to find ways to increase that performance. Basically what I'm looking for are patterns. There's combinations of behaviors that the boat has that could potentially give us a clue as to why the boat goes faster in certain conditions. We're applying machine learning and artificial intelligence, and they haven't really been applied to this sort of data before. Machine learning at BAR, that's the cavalry of performance analysis. With machine learning, what you can do is save time, right? Instead of having to go out on the water and changing one thing, we can virtually change many things at once. It's absolutely fantastic. A lot of the techniques that I use at JLR are also applicable here. The way that the data coming off of these sensors is very similar to the vehicle case. Your vehicle telemetry, how fast you're going, the environment, personal preferences of the person in the vehicle. We can use the data that is coming off of these vehicles to essentially give the boat more speed. It would be really, really rewarding if we win the cup now and if we can essentially trace that back to some of the analysis that we did. It's just as much as having a really well-trained sailing team as it is to have a boat that's easy to sail. When you connect the two, I think that's what's really going to bring it home. I definitely think that the secret weapon of this America's Cup is data.
I think the teams are going to be quite close. They've had another 4 years to have a go at these boats than they have since the last cup, and so the differences will drop. It's going to be the incremental changes. Each one's going to make a small difference, and if you add all those small differences up, you'll be the winning boat.
So, and the video ends over there, and when the person was talking about JLR, he used this word called as JLR, and that's basically Jaguar Land Rover. That's called as JLR. It's a brand, and we are very proud that this brand is owned by Tata Motors now. Since last more than 5 years now, and we will also be glad to know that the cost of acquisition that Tata Motors had when they bought over JLR, that was basically recovered within 2 years. Okay, and this is a company which is 2,500 crores pounds, and again this is dated. This is 17-18 data that I'm calling out, and when a company which is having a revenue of 2.5 thousand crores, Great Britain pounds, invests in data science, with so much of success, that basically means that if they are getting the outcomes in terms of efficiency, innovation, design and everything on the automobile sector. Let's move on and let's again change the vertical now. As I said, we are going to talk about 8 global companies in the world where business innovation is happening through data science. So the taxi service, now everyone knows Uber is everywhere. So the taxi service, famous Uber thing that came in the world, and then we have our own version out here in India called as Ola. Now what's important over here is to understand and appreciate that the basic taxi service didn't change. So even before we had Uber or Ola, we used to basically try to locate a cab. We used to hail the cab. That means basically have a handshake with the cab, call the cab, and then try to hire the cab. And it's the same thing. You basically say that, okay, where do you want to go? You try to locate your cab out there on the GPS map, and then finally you sign up and you track where the car is, right? So the basic service didn't change, but the platform, the way it is delivered, the way you do it, the ease of doing it, and the price at which you do it, the convenience is manifold, and everything is basically on a platform. We have spoken a lot about Uber not owning a single taxi, still or cabs, and still having a platform. All those things are good, but the point is that the superior service is actually being given wholly 100% on a data platform, and this is only enabled by data science, because which cab will be sent an alert, which are the cabs which are in the vicinity, tracking the GIS GPS locations, constantly getting the inputs of big data over here, which is pretty fast, pretty huge volume, huge velocity, and tracking them, understanding the near proximity with the Euclidean distance, trying to send them alerts depending on whether they are free or going to be free, how close are they in the current trip. All these things are based on algorithms. And then not only that, trying to basically track them, trying to figure out the best route, and everything else, including basically the kind of person that you are, what kind of routes you take, and those kind of pop-ups do come when you select a location. So if you always select a location or a couple of locations, you will see that those locations will get priority when you try to select a drop location, right? So everything is based on data science service. On the other hand, we are talking about a supermarket and a hypermarket like Tesco. So whoever has not heard of the name Tesco, it's basically like Walmart or big bazaars of India. So but then Tesco is more popular out there in UK. It's one of the biggest and the largest. Tesco has got different kinds of their variants, with small ones to big ones, supermarkets, and they do have hypermarkets as well. And you will be glad to know that there is a dedicated data science team out there working at Bangalore office. It's located at a place called Whitefield in Bangalore. And there is a dedicated building, not only an office, there's a dedicated building which is working on data science for Tesco. And one of the use cases that I can mention over here is that Tesco spends around 1 billion, 1 billion pounds, okay? So we are not even talking about Tesco's revenue here. We are saying Tesco spends 1 billion pounds on its refrigeration maintenance. So, because it's spread across, it has got its cold storage inside, outside, everywhere. And it spends 1 billion pounds in refrigeration maintenance annually. And, even if this team is having a target of saving 1% of that, that amounts to 1 million pounds, okay? So that's the kind of work that, the Tesco team out there, the data science team of Tesco out there in Bangalore is doing. And that's where, people maintain their competitiveness, basically, and they, compete, with each other in the market. So, these are the two things. Now we come to, sportswear, okay, Nike, one of the most favorite brands. And again, I'll play a video out here. And then, we will talk about something very interesting that you will hear in the video. But first, let's go to the video.
There's a lot of data that we have available, a lot of data, sales data, a lot of data from the whole supply chain, from provisioning materials to build the shoe to actually delivering the shoe on the dock. Big data and analytics is the wave of the future for Nike. But how do we take that data and make it really useful for us? Right now, we're trying to analyze our supply chain and how we can get product to the customer at the right place at the right time. So it's really utilizing those tool sets to discover where we have product in our supply chain, how we can get to the different elements in faster, more efficient manners so that we're not wasting as much product. Utilizing Cognos 10.2 as our engine, we just started creating solutions that were going to allow better insight into their data through analytics, such as Cognos Business Intelligence Report Studio, through Cognos Workspace Advanced. If we have all of the different tools integrated, it allows the individual planner to make a more forceful decision to get their plans together so that we can deliver the product to market faster and more efficiently. What we're really starting to see with these reports is that they can see their data more visually and say, hey, there's that trend and now it's going this way when it should have been going this way. To put that power into your hands to say, here's the data that I have. Now, what are those decisions that I now need to make now that I have all of that available at my fingertips? Give it to the planners more ammunition to validate their gut feeling. For us to maintain our competitive edge, we have to make sure that we use data as a competitive edge as well. All of those things will add us up to be a more profitable company.
Now, I think what's important, over here is to let you know, and again, this is surprising for most of us, including myself, which is the biggest platform for selling, retail stuff on the globe now. It's, I think, unanimous response, which is Amazon, right? Across the globe. And you'll be surprised to know that because of data science, because they would like to understand more customer behavior directly, which Amazon may not share with them, Nike took this big decision last year, 2019, to stop its sales from Amazon platform. Immediately after this session, if you log into your Amazon in India, which is amazon.in, or if you change your location and go to amazon.com, you will not see a single Nike product being sold by Nike itself on the Amazon platform anymore. They stopped it. Now, can you imagine a brand like Nike having this confidence of taking away its product from the world's largest retail platform, right? So that's the power of data science that we are seeing, and that's the importance of data science. And one of the reasons why they did that, and you can Google this, is because they say that, look, we are not getting enough data to mine and use our algorithms if we keep selling it through Amazon, because Amazon is not going to share that with us. So because of that, so they place that much importance to data science that they have taken out their product from Amazon. So this is, again, something not trivial, okay? We go on to the next slide. And while we have spoken about big things happening for different industries, different corporates across, including India, Europe, as well as US, we are now going to talk about some challenges and concerns as well. And everyone has heard about one name, even if they have not heard about the name that comes on the screen. So I really do not know how many of you have heard the name of Tesla Motors. Many of you may have, but then every one of you have heard the name of Elon Musk, right? So Elon Musk is the guy behind many companies, including one called Tesla Motors, and you may have heard his name because he wants to float a company and a service more precisely, which will have driverless cars, right? Now, while that sounds pretty exciting to all of us, most of us, I'm going to call out some of the challenges and where data science have moved in these years and try to give you an idea. It just is an idea in this webinar of the kind of enormous complexities that data science envisages to handle. So in 2018, we had a meeting at the Google headquarters because of my involvement in a world standard. There's the first standard in the world that's getting built for big data analytics. So being the chair of that standard, where 17 countries is working, the team, we were called at Google headquarters for the meeting of that, and Google is part of it. So, and that was in 2018 in the Milpitas office out there in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, right? So over there, we were actually discussing, this problem that's happening, because Google is also experimenting with driverless cars. And let me, call out one use case which will, make you realize the kind of complexities that data science needs to address now going forward. So all these things of driverless cars, understanding, processing the signals out there for the roads, red, green, yellow, passers-by, moving across the streets, identifying the different kind of cars, bikes, bicycles out there. All these things are done. Okay, so pretty much we saw ourselves, a few cars, roaming around, near Caltech in the campus, which didn't have any drivers. Okay, so it had a moving camera, a big kind of a pouch on the top, on the roof, and then the cars are moving around. But the point is that, where people are stuck and they are still not being able to roll out the driverless cars is one difficult use case. And I would like your, focus to understand this. Now, imagine a situation where there's someone sitting in the back row of the car, a mother with a child without a driver. It's a driverless car moving across the street, going from destination A to destination B. There's a mother who is sitting with a infant in her lap, and then suddenly, while the car is basically going at a speed of 70 miles or 60 miles per hour, and which is a very common speed. Okay, so 60, 70 miles per hour is basically a slow speed in US. So the standard speed in US is around 80 miles per hour in the freeways out there. The city speed is around 40 to 60 miles per hour. And imagine that suddenly another kid from a nearby park just suddenly comes in front of the car to pick up his football. What happens? So there's no driver. The car has to take decision. So at that kind of a speed, when you are driving at 80 miles per hour, remember I'm saying 80 miles, okay? This is not kilometers. So 80 miles means, close to, it's almost, 110 kilometers per hour, okay? 115 kilometers per hour. So if that be so, and you basically get to see a kid who is standing maybe 30 feet away or 20 feet away from you, there are a couple of decisions that, options that you have. One is basically somehow, basically, put the accelerating brakes out there with a tremendous force and stop the car. In spite of all kinds of airbags that can be there in the car, if you, stop 80 miles per hour car within the next 15 feet, there is going to be a severe injury to the child, the infant, to the extent that, he or, the infant can be dead, right? The second option is basically hit the kid and go ahead, because you can't do both, right? The third option, try to save the kid, try to save the infant at the back seat along with the mother, and hence not only apply brakes at a very high force, but try to maneuver the car. That means try to change the direction of the car. Now, if you try to change the direction of the cars with all the video cameras and sensors out there, I mean, it may not help much within a couple of seconds. Maybe, it will get 2 to 3 seconds to, take this decision and act on it. That there will be, people out there on the footpaths, right? So you'll have to kill them. So the question is, whom to kill. So there's a use case now that we discussed in 2018, that what about an algorithm when the car needs to decide how to prefer hitting someone instead of someone else. So that's the kind of complexity that we are talking about and the concerns of data science as well. Okay. So, and that's where, things are moving. And that's why I wanted to give you this example as well, because it's not all goody stuff. There are challenges as well. There are, concerns, but then just imagine the kind of complexity that data science is now staged to handle. Okay. Uh, so with all these examples, I think, we definitely understand that, there is a lot of business innovation happening in different domains, different corporates, different verticals, and, the list is endless. But I try to give you at least 8, renowned corporates in the world who are trying to, basically base their products, services, platforms, business models purely on data science and innovation based on data science. And we will try to see a summary of this now. Okay, now, so we understand, right? So now I think the important question, especially for, the students community and, aspirants who are either professionals somewhere else and trying to change their career, what to be done? So, with all these things being said and, propagated, so how can we take the advantage and stand out of the crowd? That's why this picture, how do you stand out from others? How do you beat your peers? And we all understand, especially, over here in India, as well as abroad, but then obviously, the dimension is much more here, that, there is always too much of crowd everywhere. And, I think it's important for us to identify ourselves and try to basically, have something wherein I can stand out. There is a myth now that, because of data science, AI, machine learning, deep learning, all these algorithms, only people who are either from statistics or from econometrics or from mathematics background will have an advantage. Like, initially they used to have, people passing out from either, ISIs and other institutes. Or otherwise, these days, there are many courses you see that, there are masters and there are bachelors, dedicated onto data science, right? So yeah, I mean, those options are always there. There will be people who will be, dedicated, for a learning course for 3 years, 5 years, depending on the, on the course schedule and all that. But what is important for all of us is to understand what Dr. Goswami, called out in the beginning of when we started. And he did call out, a couple of areas, and he did call out at the end of his speech saying that, it's pretty important even for, guys who are studying mechanical engineering, right? And that's where I would like to focus. It's not only about, going and, doing a full-time study or a course which is, specialized in data science, but I think it's going to be ubiquitous. So, what you see in computers, in basic computer programming, let's talk about something completely unrelated, seemingly, apparently, unrelated. So, a lady who is, someone, a guy who is studying psychology. So mostly in India, we have this, again, a perception, a wrong perception, but then we have a perception, someone who is not interested in science will study psychology, right? So I'm scared of maths, so I don't want to get into, that. So, I'm, studying psychology. Now, let's be honest and brutal to ourselves. You cannot be a renowned psychologist in the world today without doing any kind of psychoanalysis. And any kind of psychometric test involves not only at a preliminary level, but a very detailed level of statistical algorithms and tests. Okay, so if you really want to be someone renowned in your field, whether you are in the oil industry, whether you are a psychologist, whether you are working in anthropology, a completely different subject, nothing to do with physics, nothing to do with chemistry. Someone who is studying anthropology, a pure art subject, maybe from presidency or somewhere else, JNU. Even in anthropology, in today's world, you cannot do without data science because there's a lot of data. Please understand that. There are a lot of psychometric tests which are happening. And recently you basically have a new film released on Shakuntala Devi, right? Amazon Prime released that. I think either today or yesterday it got released, and many people are seeing that, on Shakuntala Devi. And you will see that University of Texas actually carried out a psychometric analysis of Shakuntala Devi while she was trying to solve maths problems to understand, how her neurons and other things were reacting and how her brain was different. And if they could figure out how she's being able to do it faster than even the best computer at that time, correct? So psychometric analysis involves in a lot of statistical techniques and tools. Similarly, for anthropology, where you keep on collecting data, you need to use data science. The point that I'm trying to put across is that data science will not be a specialized subject in itself only. In coming days, you will see that it is going to be something which is ubiquitous, which basically means that irrespective of your domain, you need to know the fundamentals and some of the advanced topics of data science, so that within your area, whether you are a mechanical engineer, whether you are a chemical engineer, metallurgical engineer, whether you are doing your MBA or something else, you are good with data analysis. That's important. And I somehow feel, and that's my gut feeling, with one of the companies that we have, Business Bureau, was into consulting and projects for multinationals, global companies across the world. What we are seeing is that when we are talking to the Tata Group, when we are talking to a manufacturing hub which wants to implement analytics for maybe a sinter plant, for maybe a metal blast furnace, maybe for a centrifugal casting, you basically need domain knowledge. So basically, being a mechanical engineer, I think you can actually knowing, understanding how to apply data science, you can actually create this niche of being the parrot among the other birds, what you get to see. So if you really want to create the niche and stand out in the crowd, you can actually do it much better, focusing on your subject, but also trying to basically harness the skills of data science and trying to see how you can apply that, these tools and techniques into your own domain. Okay, so that's the message that I'm going to give. And try to understand where do you learn it from, because that's important. As you know that today's thing is in association with Sustainability the University and DW Academy. So I'm part of the DW Academy. I teach there as well. And what's important is that who is teaching. So as we have said that we work for Business Bureau, which is basically a peer projects and consulting arm working with different companies across Middle East, US, Europe and India. And we have got Data Science Foundation, which is basically leading the standards first time in the world of big data analytics under the umbrella of international standards ISO organization with 17 countries. So we are hands-on, and I think it's not only we. I think anyone else who can be there. I think there should be healthy competition everywhere else, but focus that where you learn it from people who are applying it day in, day out in the industry, because, one is understanding and going through your academic curriculum. The other thing is knowing and going through some, professional courses as well, where you actually know how to apply it and be hands-on and be ready on day one, right? So that's important, because even if we all understand what's the difference between mean and median, because we all know that mean is an average, median is the central point. Most of us will actually laugh at this topic, saying that why Gautam is discussing this. But I can tell you, in this forum of more than 100 people who have joined, if I ask any one of you to call out 2 examples where you will say, with a practical use case, that where mean is more important than median, and vice versa, where median is more important than mean, and you can take a wrong decision if you use the mean instead of median, you will think for a couple of minutes, if not hours, okay? So practical applications and importance of being hands-on is important as well. So that's the end of my session. Again, thanks a lot for Sister Nivedita University, all the panelists out here. Thanks for arranging this. I think the platform should be now open for any kind of question and answers. Thank you.
Indila, I think there are a few questions.
Yes. Banerjee screen is still.
Do you have them, or should I read them out?
Ma'am, I just can see the screen. Should I go ahead, Mr. Banerjee?
Yeah,
Should I go ahead?
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'll stop the sharing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you explain the difference of skill set in data and in data engineering, data analyst, and data scientist?
Can you repeat?
As a skill set, in the difference of skill set for data engineers, data analysts, and data scientists.
Okay,
this
very
is,
good.
By Rohit Kumar from CSE department.
Sure. Yeah.
Technology.
So, Rohit, thanks for asking the question. I think that's a very natural, question that comes in your mind, because these days we hear too many jargons, right? First is big data, then we have got analytics, then we have got AI, then we have got deep learning, then we have got data science. So, and then data analyst, data scientist. So I think it's a very common question, relevant question, and the answer is too straight. For us who work in the industry, for you guys who aspire to work in the industry, do not differentiate. Basically, you need to understand the basics of data, some of the basic tools and techniques of inferential statistics, some of the advanced models of regression, and then go ahead with some of these forecasting models and AI models of unsupervised machine learnings and so on and so forth. So it's a gradual path where you start with maybe as basics as I said, what is a data type, what's a discrete data, what's a continuous data, from there onwards. And the roles which are there in the industries can be different. So a data engineer will be working more on the data side, but may not be more on the algorithm side. A data analyst may be working more on the algorithm side, and a data scientist, being a role of data scientist, he or she is going to work with a mix of algorithm as well as platforms. So you've got different platforms and tools, like you've got AWS, you have got Google Colab, you have got Hadoop, you have got NoSQL. So there are different platforms and services. So technology is involved out there, and you have got the statistical and computational algorithms. So someone who is basically maintaining a balance between the two is called as a data scientist. Data analysts are basically guys who focus more on the algorithm part, and then data engineers are basically roles. People who play that role are more into the data side, wherein they understand the data dimension, the adequacy, the sample size, the outliers, the missing value, the data cleaning, a lot of visual dashboards and stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. He's asking another question. I want to ask that the validation data and test are these same or different? While selecting or tuning hyperparameter, this question confuses.
Yeah, so validation is very important, Rohit. So, that's important in fine tuning the model. So basically any kind of test, so whether you call it a test or an algorithm, validation is actually something that see, to understand whether the algorithm that you have developed is an overfitment or underfitted value. And there are different parameters for that. There's something which is called as, AIC. There's something called as BIC. So AIC is called as Akai information criteria. So there are different methods and ways in logistic regressions. You've got sensitivity, specificity. So there are different jargons out there. We'll not get into algorithms now, but that's way you understand saying that what's the accuracy of the models. Even in forecasting, accuracy is important. There are again different measures of accuracy, like mean square errors to mean absolute percentage error, MAPE, MAC, MAPE. These are the terms which are used. But you have to validate that with a different independent set of data, not the data set that you use to train the model, build the model, to understand that in a real-time scenario how much is the fitment of the model.
Thank you. Two more questions from Rohit. Should we go ahead?
Yeah.
After knowing fundamental or doing courses of data science, how can we proceed further to practice those learned skill sets? That is a way to practice our Kaggle, or what is the best approach in your view?
Very good question, Rohit. Again, don't know your background, but all the questions are very good questions. So, one of the best ways is doing projects, okay? Because, as I said, practical exposure is very
He's from
important.
CSE.
Okay.
CSE department.
Okay, very good. So I think one of the best ways is to do projects. So one of the things that that we have tried to facilitate from Data Science Foundation is basically we have different platforms. If you visit datasciencefoundation.org, you will get to see different platforms out there. There is data data astronaut, there is datathon, there is meetups. There are a lot of things that we do to attend a lot of seminars and webinars where people from the industries are coming and talking about practical applications. That's something that we do under the meetups for Data Science Foundation. The other thing that we have done is that we have set up something which is basically set up the biggest a platform for projects. So India's Kaggle, you can say, where we are actually giving you projects. So we are taking data from the industry, from different government, private companies, NGOs, and we are giving you practical problems with data sets and questionnaires, along with different kind of expectations and deliverables, and you've got different stages of submitting it. So you can actually start practicing those projects, working on those projects, which will basically help you hone your skills further of what you have learned and practical application of it. Okay.
Yes, thank you. And is there a good scope for freshers like BTech degree in data science industry?
Yeah, this is something that I've discussed with. So there are now, so now there are courses, someone is calling it BSc, someone is calling it as MBA, someone is calling it MS, BTech. So different kinds of, nomenclature is there. But basically there are courses which are dedicated, focused onto analytics, data science, whatever you say, big data analytics. So there are courses like that. Surely, why not? This is a field which has immense scope of getting specialized on. So that is something that is possible. But what I mentioned is also important, that if you're pursuing something else, so if you're doing your MBA, or if you're doing your MBA marketing or MBA finance, or if someone is doing a mechanical engineering, or studying something else, I think there's an immense scope of applying data science algorithms into your field by going through a professional course. Okay. And that is an added advantage, because you have a domain on one hand, because please understand, and this is a myth, you never apply IT services to an IT company. So IBM doesn't sell IT services to Wipro, and Wipro doesn't sell IT services to Cognizant. Okay, so all these companies who are into IT, they basically sell it to conventional industry. So they sell it to Jet Airways, they sell it to Air India, they sell it to Emirates, they sell it to British Petroleum, they sell it to Tata Steel. So these are conventional industries. So finally, information technology, data science, all these are enablers. So you have to have your fields of specialization where actual work will happen. These are primary industries, and data science, information technology, all these are going to enable that. So you can always go ahead with your current specialization if you have a knack for that. But data science, will be an enabler. If you know it, if you can apply it, you can be the parrot among the birds. That's my answer. Thank you.
We have got one question from Shreya De. So being an MBA aspirant, can I apply for data science?
So are you talking about, I'm assuming you are talking about courses or it's a job. So if it's a job, I have my reservations because first of all, getting selected in an interview is tough, unless and until you're from obviously very reputed MBA colleges. So if you are from, Nasimonji or IIMs, it's different. But if you're not from IIMs or Nasimonji or that category of, MBA, then, it's difficult to get selected because the interviews are tough. As I said, this is a niche skill. This is specific. You have to do a professional course or you have to have some background onto this. You just can't, casually join a company having an MBA and start learning data science or statistics. That normally companies do not allow because that takes a lot of time. So if you do a course and then you do a project somewhere, you do an internship or do a project either from Kaggle or from Datathon, as I mentioned, then definitely, why not? Absolutely. People want MBA skills along with data science skills. That's in high demand, right?
Mr. Pradeep Chauhan, next question is from Mr. Pradeep Chauhan. What is the prerequisite to be a data scientist?
Knowing data science. So sorry for oversimplifying it. So there's no prerequisite. As I said, I'm repeatedly mentioning there is a perception, there's a myth that you have to come from a maths background, you have to come from a science background. As I've said, if your class 10 and 12 maths is good, that's all you need. Starting from a logistic regression, which is a log transformation of a normal, what to say? It's a log transformation of a straight line equation, actually. So a straight line equation is taught in class 8, and the log transformation is taught in class 10 or class 11. So if you have class 10 maths and class 11 maths, and if you're decent in there, I think anyone can do data science. So as I said, someone basically going through psychology honors or masters can do data science as well. Nothing stops us. But in India, we do have these perceptions or these stereotypes saying that you can't do. But the point is that you have to have those basic things, fundamental things strong. So that's important, obviously. And the problem in India is that as we get more educated, we tend to forget what we have learned in class 8. So if I again ask you a simple question, that what's the difference between a principle, hypothesis and a law, maybe again most of you will struggle because that was taught in class 8. So you have got Avogadro's hypothesis, you have got Newton's law, and you have got Archimedes' principle. But then because that was in class 8 and most of you are doing graduation, you do not recall the difference. So that cannot happen. So you have to have fundamentals pretty much clear. But if your fundamentals are clear, I think there is no problem. Okay, I can handle maybe one or two more questions because I have a hard stop. I have another call starting at 8:30, so by 8:15 you have to log out, if you don't mind.
Okay, so two more questions then.
Absolutely.
Two, three more. Yes. Afsana Akhtar, can you suggest some research site or topic on data science in business?
Research topics. Then I'm assuming that you know data science because I mean, unless you know data science, I mean, you not maybe ask about research topics. So I'm assuming that you understand, stochastic models, Markov chain, and other things. So if you understand that, one of the research topic that you can figure out is basically trying to understand significance value for a test, at any kind of a given percentile. At this point in time, most of the tests that we have in inferential world is basically either around the mean or basically, around the central axis, which is a rank test, or around median, which is a Moore's median test, a lone test, which is around a median, though we do not estimate median. So one of the things which lacks is basically at any given percentile, can I do a fundamental test of significance? So that is missing. And the service industry needs that heavily because most of the data distributions are lopsided and skewed. Unlike the normal distributions which you get to see in the manufacturing industry. So in that case, that can be a research topic if in case you like it. So search about it. It's basically, trying to understand the significance value of the p-value or the f-statistic, for or a chi-square distribution, or maybe an exact Fisher's test. How do you apply, for any kind of argument that you take in for any given percentile. So research about it. That's a hot topic. It's a very niche topic though. But as you are asking for research topics, so I'm assuming that you are well conversant with these topics and jargon. So that's my response. Yeah.
Another question from Afsana is, should we learn R or Python for data science?
Again, doesn't matter. I think we should be tool agnostic. So once someone, like, say for example, if you really understand how a chi-square test works, you can do a coding in even Java or C++, right? So R, Python, Julia, Kotlin, Go. I mean, these are all languages which basically helps us with some functions and packages, or write our own functions to call these algorithms. But if you understand the fundamentals of how a chi-square test runs, or the fundamentals of how the algorithm of exact Fisher's test happen, you can basically use any of these tools. It doesn't matter. So it's a matter of time that you will learn it. So you can start with R or Python, whichever suits you. That will be my answer. Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
As that's Srija Ghoshal, as specific components of data science is used in specific business sector, can you please share that is complete data science is to be mastered by every sector student, or we can be specific to learn as per our sector or domain?
That's a very good question. In fact, a very thoughtful question. So I will say that, look, fundamentally, there will be certain, topics that should be covered for anyone, because as I said, something like basic as inferential statistics fundamentals, sampling methods, some bit of, tests like, test around the parametric tests, non-parametric test, regression. So I think these are very common things, that should be learned. And then, going forward also, I think some of the advanced topics of modelings, supervised, unsupervised, machine learning, forecasting, in generic, I think that is good enough. Beyond that, I think depending on your domain, I think it's important to actually work on some domain specific projects. So you can either get it from the, I think sites or platforms like, as I said, Datathon or Kaggle, or you can basically, go and try for internship in any of the startups. I think, startups is one of the best, SME sector is one of the best sector where you actually learn more in the first 2 years of time than what you can learn if you join any of the MNCs. I'll not insult them by taking their names, but any big companies, the learning is very less because you are one of those, 2 lakh employees. You were sitting in one corner beside a window and doing, one specific thing. So working directly on some projects, onto the domain will actually help you. Say, for example, you're doing forecasting, but if you do forecasting for wind energy versus a forecasting for a newsprint media versus a forecasting for maybe a retail chain of Spencer's, your forecasting techniques and methods and how do you understand the nuances of forecasting will be much more clear. So I think at a basic level, there are certain topics that should be covered, and beyond that, for domain specific, I think more case studies and POCs and projects will help. Thank you.
Indila, we can end there, but just one more question I see. Most of them are repetitive, Gautam. Just one
Yes.
I see that from Madhusri Rana, which says that which is more important and instrumental in today's world, data science or machine learning?
Good question again. A very relevant question. And that's the confusion, because we all always try to differentiate. So they're not different. So it's basically saying that should I learn calculus, or should I learn differential calculus or integral calculus? So data science includes machine learning and a lot more other techniques. So if you learn machine learning, it's part of data science. So they are not mutually exclusive. If you learn calculus, it includes differential calculus as well as integral calculus. Summation is integral calculus, and when you take a difference, is the differential calculus. So you can go ahead and learn machine learning with utmost zeal and info, and that's part of data science pretty much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gautam. It has been a wonderful session. I think the students have benefited a lot, the way they raise the questions. And from the university end, I could see a few of our HODs and professors. In fact, the mathematics HOD was here, Professor Pradeep Chauhan, who even raised a question. He's from our economics department. So I'm sure they all have liked your session, benefited from it. It's a great thing. Dr. Goswami, would you like to sum up?
No, it's a really pleasure. I was sitting there for the entire duration. It's good that many questions being asked and people get to know many things. Actually, what I can sum up is that Mr. Banerjee has already said everything on that topic. Is actually the data and how you calibrated the data, the modulation of data, and how you can flow the data in different areas. That's to be understand, and that is the most important factor of data science. The things. Am I right, Mr. Banerjee?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
That is the most important, and I hope this kind of lecture or this kind of session we can do in the future also. I request Ms. Bose to organize this kind of things a more on detailed way, so that the students and the faculty will be also benefited and get to know from Mr. Banerjee. Thank you very much.
So we can take a deep dive into
exactly
deep dives into different topics, so that people. So this was more of an overview of what's happening in the business perspective, but yes, I think that will help as well.
And one thing you have already mentioned, that school level mathematics is very important, plays an important role. Yes, very important.
Critical, very critical.
Moreover, what at least I have understood is data science is inevitable or inseparable from our lives. Right. Be that the administration, be that management, be that industry, be that agriculture, maybe, be that healthcare, in any sector.
Absolutely, that it's going to be ubiquitous in this. So right. I think 5 years, 7 years down the line, and that is what I'm trying to reiterate, saying that do not ignore this. Do not think that this is only for a few specialized people. You can always use it if you learn it fundamentally well. And believe me, it's not rocket science. So we actually have given too many jargons to it so that we get well paid.
Right.
And people do not understand the jargons, but this is basic stuff. But yes, you have to focus, have your fundamentals clear, and anyone can do it. This is not rocket science. I mean, we are not trying to invent a new algorithm or a theory. We're trying to apply things, just like what engineers do, right? Pure physicists will come up with principles which engineers will try to apply. So we are not trying to be pure physicists or pure statisticians here. We're trying to be analysts, where we will be, reusing the algorithms through the packages and tools like R, Python, Julia, Kotlin, SAS, so many things, SPSS, Minitab. So it's not rocket science.
And moreover, our own individual application domain, we must understand. Then only the jugglery is possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate, SNU University, Dr. Goswami, Inadi, Oindrila, and others as well. The audience who had their patience to, tolerate me for more than an hour's time. It was a pleasure, and thank you so much. Be safe and take care.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you.
Bye.
Keep well. Bye bye. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.